Finance Minister designate promises economic relief. E-Levy and betting tax to go. All right. So the Minister of Finance designate, Dr. Kassel Atuba-Forson, has stated that his topmost priorities will be to work very hard to lower prices, stabilize the Ghana cedi, and create jobs towards lowering the cost of living for Ghanaians. He said in the short term, the government would anchor prices on the careful cutting of wasteful expenditure and fiscal consolidation while protecting growth and the vulnerable. In addition, he said there's an urgent need to reduce inflation by tackling food inflation. Now, on the matter of scrapping taxes, answering questions from Parliament's Appointments Committee yesterday, Dr. Forson said the government would scrap taxes that constituted a nuisance to Ghanaians. Accordingly, he said, burdensome taxes, including the betting tax and the E-Levy that were imposed by the previous administration, will be scrapped in the first budget if he's approved as finance minister. He said he had written a number of articles and spoken against the implementation of the E-Levy, and I still stand by it, the quote ends. Now, it says in here, in the first budget of this government, I want to assure you that the E-Levy will go, he stressed. Dr. Forson said his position on the E-Levy did not mean that he did not appreciate the need for revenue. He explained, however, the E-Levy is not a direct, an indirect or excise tax, adding that E-Levy retarded progress towards financial inclusion and a cash-light economy. All right, I'll end it there. The story goes on in the Daily Graphic, but I think this one suffices. Let me start with Richard Bensal on this one.
Well, yesterday, good morning to viewers as well. Yesterday, I sat through and watched the vetting, and there were three things that hit me, which I was looking out for. First, whether they were up to it. Now, you look at all the three of them, in my view, they expressed, they were very knowledgeable in the field that they were going. And I think it's because Atuba-Forson has served under Setepe as a deputy at the finance ministry. And then when he became a ranking member, he's been very, very vocal. Okay. He's been very, very vocal, and then he became a minority leader. And you remember when the excuse given for him being made a minority leader, Asedun Kitia then said that the elections was going to be fought on the economic front, and he thinks that the leadership of then minority in parliament, that is the NDC, needed to have somebody who had a deep understanding of the economy so that they'll be able to campaign very well. So in terms of that, then you look at Jinapo too had been a ranking. So first a deputy, then he became a ranking on energy. So he's been through the mill as it is. Same as Dr. Dominic Ayeni. Even in private practice, he's been at the forefront of advocacy and all that. So in terms of their answers to most of the questions that were posed, I think, to be fair to them, they were up to it. They demonstrated enough knowledge of the places that they were going. But you see, with the finance ministry, one of the things that the committee, and that is why for the first time, a leader who is basically from parliament, they regard as a leader, had to go through that vetting for long. I think he did close to 4 hours. He started around 9:30 something, and then we closed around 2:30 thereabouts. So he did that much. But how do I view the questions by the committee members? I think the committee members were deliberate in their questioning, because in terms of the finance ministry especially, the probing was very thorough. The probing was very thorough. But for cases that I thought the minority leader was interjecting too much unnecessarily, but for that, I think the questions were thorough. I enjoyed the questions of Dr. Boakon and then the rest. And every other person who asked the question was deliberate in his or her requirement. And that is how come, for instance, we're leading with this story that E-Levy and betting tax would have to go. Well, for me, when those questions started coming, I told myself that the NDC have no choice than to abolish it.
Yeah.
Because they campaigned with it.
It was a strong
Now,
promise.
the reason why they don't even have an excuse is that they can't come and tell us now that, oh, because we were in opposition, we didn't see things right. No, because you've been in government before, and therefore access to information, you know how to get your information. So what it tells me is that you had done the analysis, and that was the reason why you were saying that these taxes are nuisance taxes, and therefore you are going to take it out. And that is, I think the promise was first 120 days when they come by the 120th
by the
day.
time they do the first budget.
First budget, but he's saying that he's definitely going to include it in the first budget. So it was not an either or for me. It would have been strange if they had gotten a justification to say that they are not going to do it, and that justification would only have been, oh, we didn't see things clearly.
Yeah.
And that I'm saying that saying that they have no excuse.
Yeah.
You've been in government before.
Yeah.
So when you were saying your flag bearer, who is now the president of the land, had been first vice president, and he went into opposition. So for me, access to information, you know how to get it. So when you are commenting on things, you know how to approach it. So you don't say that you've never been president before, so you can't criticize me. Be a president before you can criticize me. You move beyond that. So every other promise that they promised the people of Ghana, they must adhere to it. There's no an either-or situation there. But looking at where we are now, for me, I think the priorities of Atuforsen, if he is given the nod, I think he will be given the nod though. If he's given the nod, is one, to stabilize the economy. Okay. And that is very, very important. And yesterday, during his answering, you see, he kept on stressing that even in their manifesto, they promised to deal more with the micro economy to balance it out, because it looks like within our structure of the economy, we always deal with the macro, and therefore we have problems. So he promised to deal with it. That gives me the hope that he realizes the enormous tax ahead, and that's stabilizing the economy. The next one will be investor confidence. Because of the DDEP and things, is a little bit shaky for investors. And you know, our structure of the economy, the way it is, if we don't get enough investment and all those things, we are going nowhere with it. Because we wouldn't take, nobody should kid himself that it will take 4 years to change the structure of the economy. No, it wouldn't. But steps must be taken to ensure that we get out of this current structure that every time we've been writing about. They call it what? Georgesburg economy or something. I don't know where that thing also came from. And every other.
It came from Akufo-Addo.
Every other economist that I've encountered before has very, very good solutions to this, but I've never seen any implementation. And I think if we want to do that, we must, apart from the investor confidence, there's inflation and depreciation of the cedi. And yesterday, his answers to the cedi depreciation and stabilizing it, I was a little bit saying, when he was asked, and he said that, okay, the cedi is normally anchored by the Bank of Ghana, and therefore it's the responsibility of the governor to ensure that at least there's some stability in there. Then I asked myself, but really, listening to him, the commentary prior to the elections, going after the former finance minister and all that, it didn't seem to me that he knew or he wanted us to know that it's the governor's responsibility.
No, but he had spoken, loudly about the governor many times, including leading a demonstration against him. You remember the governor calling, some of them rogues and so on.
But what I was saying is that, in fact, yes, he led a demonstration against the governor, but it was on a different matter. It was not largely because of the city. It was not.
No, that also played. That was also part of it.
But it was not. What I'm saying is that the communication prior to this, him coming there, the kind of engagements they've had, it never occurred. It never occurred to me that they wanted to communicate that aspect. That look, this city is not a finance minister's job.
Yes,
it has to be the job of the Bank of Ghana governor. However, finance ministry plays a role because you actually you are the pillar of the economy. Your policies emanate from you, and then the governor too has his part to do. But all in all, I think, like I said in the beginning, they demonstrated enough knowledge of the place. That is how it came to me. Enough knowledge of the places that they were going. You listen to Jinapo. He was spot on many of the things. Many of the things that he was asked, i.e. The energy sector levy and how it was not used to pay the debts, and now the debts growing to. So yesterday, before he appeared yesterday, the amount that I know for the energy sector debt was $2.5 million. But he said that it's now climbed up to 3 billion that way. And so yes, you can see that there is some level of understanding. He spoke about the ECG and the metering problems and the need to fix it, and then the need to stabilize the system. As for stabilizing the system, we need our lights on. We don't want any excuse. You say that, okay, I came to meet what that is what you meet. You met it. If the light has been sustained in the face of the challenges, then you also need to find appropriate solutions to it. Luckily, yesterday the president met with IPPs. There's been some suggestions and things. This morning on the newspaper review on the City FM, I'm hearing that I think Gridco is saying that the current administration needs to get into the energy mix. I think we need to produce 200 and in excess of 200 megawatts to be able to stabilize the system, to not so that we don't get disruptions. And so those are things that will engage, and they must move to work now. But well, the vetting went well. I think in my listening, it went well, but for the unnecessary disruptions and those things, I think it went well. And if there's anything to go by, I think for the finance ministry, the right questions were asked. The right questions were asked. In terms of his responses, some of his responses, he was dodgy. Because if there were some, he said, I have to, because I'm not there, I can't profess any this, I have to be there and all that. Well, I thought that was just...
No, but to be fair, I mean, he's been in office for less than a week. So
well, no, I'm saying that for me, I thought it was dodgy because some of the questions he could have answered, because this is somebody who ranking member, deputy. So if they are asking you of how you need, or how do you plan solving a particular problem, it should come to you natural. You should be able to profess something, and then maybe anchor it on the fact that when I get there. But now what he was trying to do is that I'm not there yet. Let me get into the ministry, then I'll see what situation pertains, and then I'll move from there. Well, good luck if he's granted.
All right. Thank you. Larry.
Yeah.
Yes, your take on yesterday's.
Thank you. I think that it's something we've witnessed over and over and over again. And so we've been here before. Now, nominees or presidents make nominations, and then those nominees are put before the Public Appointment Committee to be questioned as to, what they intend doing for the sectors that they had been posted to. And also for the people to appreciate their, their way, their competence, their temperament, their, let's say human relations sort of, because I mean, facing a panel of your peers some of them that you can also you might think that you are knowledgeable, more knowledgeable than, and others who are above you, putting questions before you that could just knock you off a bit. I mean, I recalled Dr. Ayene talking about how he had some students of his before him who were questioning him, okay, and that he was excited, you know, and Jerry Saib, is that it? Was one of them who was, you know, questioning him. And so, I mean, we've been here before.
Dafiam
Ekpo also, you know, his student as well, you know. So it's a beautiful exercise for us as a people. Now, in terms of our 2000s, you know, delivery, I think Ato has been there before. So I think he has, you know, I won't call it a fair idea, but more than a fair idea, above average idea as to what he's
going to face.
What he's going
because
to
he was
face.
vetted as a deputy minister.
As a deputy
anyway,
minister,
so
exactly.
At least he's had a bit of an experience with that.
And these are his peers, okay, that he's leading as, he has led as majority, and then now, minority and now majority. And so, I mean, I think that he carried himself very well. With that,
there was an interesting light-hearted moment. Did you notice that one?
Which of them?
When he said, learn from me and be good. He was Kwame now. He was talking to the minority leader.
Yeah. I think they carry themselves as brothers. Okay, and they share their constituencies but you know,
two constituencies.
they are apart. They are next to each other, so they know each other quite well, and they've been, you know, handling themselves, you know, to the best of their abilities. So it's I think it's been good. There was something that I noticed where as OJ said, the betting tax is that or bet tax that he says is going to abolish. I mean, that has been a manifesto promise. So like you said, he doesn't have a choice than to honor it. If you want your government or your administration to have the kind of, you know, integrity or credibility in the eyes of the people, when you make promises, you need to deliver. Then also the E-Levy. Says the E-Levy, I mean, we all know the story about the E-Levy. Okay? I mean, we were told that was the solution to all our, you know, problems as a country. Only for us to be told later that people were not paying, or even what was being paid is not enough to do whatever.
People are actually solving it. So.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, you find ingenious ways of.
To swerve. Yeah. So, I mean, that is also going to go. I mean, he was emphatic about that and said that is going to be replaced. He says they were going to bring back the toll booth thing.
Yes.
Okay, and that it's a means through which revenues were raised for the maintenance of our roads and for the construction of, you know, others. I mean, we all know what has become of all that. The reason why that was, you know, the toll system was taken down, and it was because of the E-Levy. And now, if the E-Levy is going to go, then the toll will have to come back.
I mean, my only challenge with the toll coming back is that it has to come back in a form that's a lot more advanced than it used to be.
Sure. I mean,
right, so with the electronic gates and all of that, there should be more electronic gates than the manual ones. You know,
but an electronic gate on the motorway, how would that be?
No, but look, if you go to Abidjan, if you go to Lagos, they all have massive electronic gate systems. Right. I think with the Lagos one, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I went there, but at the point they had about 10 gates, and there were 8 of them were electronic. And then only 2 were manual. For the sake of those who hadn't paid up. Benin also has it now.
Before you get to Badagry, the main Benin.
That one I haven't even seen that one yet. Because the time I went was 2012 when I drove. There,
you drove?
Yes, I drove there. And then, at that time, Benin hadn't installed this, but I'm sure as you say.
So
Abidjan also has them.
So there are best practices also
already next door to us, not even far.
Those were the arguments they made when
when they initially took it away.
Yeah, when they took it away. The NDC, I remember, the minority then in Parliament stood against that removal, but said that if it needs to come back, it must come back in a more refined manner, so that we don't see the kind of, one of the reasons why even the public, the larger population of the public, especially those who live around the areas that has those toll booths, one of the reasons they were not protesting against the removal was because of the traffic and unnecessary delays it caused. So for almost all of them, the Kaswa one, then the Dodowa one is even worse and all that. So now if you are bringing it back, which they said they will bring it back, if you are bringing it back, you need to bring it back in such a form that, one, it takes care of the frustrations that people faces, and then also takes care of the ensuring that you get the revenue in its right quantities. Unlike the first time when the collection of the revenue was subletted to people, and there were all manner of funny stories about how they would normally take their share before giving the state what is needed.
But Richard, I mean, in a certain sense, look, why would you interface with people when you know that the interfacing with people causes leakage of money? Right. So we've heard stories of people printing their own tickets, taking them into the toll booth. Then it's like, I've given you a ticket, all right, but it's my money. because it's not being accounted for from the official side of things. Listen, we should do better, honestly. I mean,
You see, everything boils down to monitoring. Okay, and evaluation. So
which we had a ministry for, but I don't know what they did.
Well. So but the E-Levy, there was an aspect of it where even Ghanaian students who were reading courses outside, anytime they had to send money to some of those schools and so on, they were paying E-Levy on it.
Wow.
Huge percentage.
Wow.
They were paying E-Levy.
Wow.
So I'm sure this is going to be a big relief for those students. Who are reading courses with all manner of universities outside, UK in particular, and so on. They would have to now, they will. I mean, I think they will be happy about this. Now, I didn't hear anything about the emission tax, whether or not it's going to stay or that one will also be scrapped.
No, I didn't hear.
Particularly when we have now created, a ministry for green. There's
so that's
energy and green
transition.
Exactly. So I mean, I don't know what will become of the emission tax as well.
My personal opinion on the emissions tax, it should stay. And it should be exacted heavily on. It should be graduated. So that if the newer your car is, the less tax you pay.
The emission tax is not looking like that. The V8 engine sort of. You remember that?
So that was a luxury. That was a luxury vehicle tax.
Exactly.
No, the emission tax is supposed to be different.
We had even what you call it, septic
tanks were luxury
tanks
vehicles.
Because they were of a certain capacity.
It's very interesting.
So then financial institutions. I didn't hear anything about the banking sector cleanup and whether or not, the licenses will be given back to them. Did you hear anything on that?
No.
During the vetting?
No, I didn't hear that either.
Okay. But there's a certain deficiency that I noticed in this particular vetting process. I think because of the numbers, you notice that the MPP side of the house, that is the minority side of it. I mean, you could see clearly that they didn't deploy the best of their, their guys.
Really?
Yes, that is how it came to me, because they are in the, minority. So they are limited in terms of the questions they would want to ask.
They are limited in number.
They are limited in number.
What the chairman did was that he allowed friends of the committee to ask, and most of the friends of the committee were
which was actually a new rule.
But I think the minority actually put their best foot forward. Almost all the Tiwa lady.
Yes.
He's a finance person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Coco
Asante.
Yes.
Coco Asante.
Yeah, with
That's
deep understanding.
Bediatu's sister.
Okay.
With deep understanding of the economy.
Yeah, Coco Asante
Same
was-
with almost everybody
was
who
solid,
asked.
yeah.
Everybody who asked.
Patrick was
solid. He knew. They knew where Dr. Baku knew when he hit on the taxes and saying that okay.
I
you
think
want to
they were
remove-
okay.
You want to remove these taxes. Now when you remove, what I see you doing is that you'll be robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, through the
Or
back door, bring
robbing
some other
Oko to
fine.
pay.
I
Other
think
taxes.
the other lady, the one who became the Minister of State.
The deputy minister.
The deputy
former
minister
deputy
before
minister
Minister of
State.
State.
Abner Asare.
Yeah, Abner
Yes,
Asare.
Abner.
Yeah, I think she was just, she had a field day to be questioning Atufolsin.
Because
she has been there,
and he
yeah.
knows the man had
knows
known.
what
If
it
you
is
realize they were
inside
going
the
back
system.
and forth on
Yeah.
some of the things.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
yes. Please wrap it up for me.
he also mentioned that he was going to do cocoa. I mean, he was going to revive the cocoa industry, and the fact that that is brings in a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
But over the years, he has been saddened by the
dwindling.
the dwindling fortunes of cocoa, and then the road towing that they talked about.
The cocoa thing too, there's a promise there when he on the floor of Parliament said that the current amount. they are
OJ,
giving
let
to
me
this
finish
is
my
6,000.
Yeah, let me finish my point. So, I mean, all in all, apart from the banking sector that I said I didn't hear much about, I think that the questions put were worth it, and then his responses, he showed that he had been there before,
Yeah.
and that given the opportunity, he knows, he has an idea as to what he wants to do, and he's going to collect money and also disburse money. And so, that is a key focus. The state institutions will have to be strengthened,
Yeah.
in the collection.
Yeah.
And then talked about the issue is no more taxes, but then the inability of people, the mobilization, which is the issue.
Yeah.
And that is going to be one, another part of his operations over there.
Okay, let me just wrap up with this thing. He says we cannot afford to default. We will implement an independent debt management fund to address the challenges and to also stop borrowing. We need to have a plan to cap the borrowing, which I think for me is
the borrowing, you
important.
can't just say that you won't borrow. Remember Akufo-Addo declared Ghana Beyond Aid.
Yeah.
You recall that?
Yeah.
And that, by the time he was leaving office or at a certain
Ghana
time,
will no longer
need
to borrow anything
exactly
anymore.
But before
Here we are.
Yeah. You get it.
Yeah.
It's all about revenue. Other places, people are using science, research, science, and then development, and you selling that to people. Over here, we
raw material.
raw material, consumption based, and so on. So we can't do
Anyway.
much with that.
All right. Well.